Hello, and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy episode number 72 for the week of August 27th, 2012. My name is Ryan Higgins, and I'm joined by some people. Who are you people?
Brock Sager.
Omar.
Hello.
And Charlie.
Hello. How are you?
What's up?
The new to the podcast is hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Who are you?
Hello.
You sound a lot like our friend Toby.
Are you Toby?
Good. You?
Okay, the secret's out of the bag. Toby's here, everyone. Toby's here. A round of applause for Toby. Before we go on to some emails here, I'm going to read a bunch of more random emails. I got some going back like all the way to May. I should answer some of these.
2011.
Yeah, I wish.
Way to be relevant, buddy.
2010 too.
So people are asking about the DC 1 year later jump. I think we should talk about that a little bit. Also, Marvel's Heroes. I seriously do have a question here about Heroes Reborn. That was not as funny as it was meant to be. It meant to be a joke of how far behind our email is, but I actually do have a question about Heroes Reborn, so maybe I'll read it.
Oh, we can talk about Liefeld, right?
Yeah.
You talk about that.
No, that'll actually go very well.
This week.
That'll go very well into the Liefeld conversation. But before we start that, Omar and Charlie, you guys were on here last week, and I know we did talk about our good friend and fellow podcaster who was on a few episodes ago, Sam, who passed away. You guys, I think, wanted to say a few things, too, since you guys
for sure,
knew
man.
him for a while.
Just my heart's out there with the whole family and obviously all his friends. Just this guy, everyone loved him. There's not one person that I know that knows him and didn't want to hang out and spend at least 5 to 10 minutes on a Thursday to check him out. I'd come in, yeah, sure, I love Ryan, come in on Wednesdays, but every once in a while I'd be late, for whatever reason I can't stop by the shop before on my way to work or after work, and I'd show up on Thursday and I'd talk to this little Mexican dude behind the counter. I was like, who's this guy? And this dude was like, you enter, and even though he's in conversation with 3 or 4 other guys, hey, what's up? Hey, how you doing? And he eventually got my name, after the 4th or 5th time, whatever. But this guy can tell a fucking story, man. He was so charismatic. He was so incredible in all the details and everything. And some of it, I don't know if it was real, but goddamn, it sounds. I mean, I want to believe it. You know what I mean? And everyone was kind of in the same way. There's just a spotlight that was on whenever he told the story. What was incredible about him too is just this balance. Where for myself, you guys all know when I came into the store initially, I wanted to feel you guys out a little bit. I didn't want to just show you guys what the Big O is all about, whatever. But obviously, I felt more comfortable eventually with time, and Sam was a big part of that. He not only was a great storyteller, as I said, he was a fantastic listener, and he would bring your voice out of you. He'd sit back and say, "Hey, man, what do you think about this and this?" And it's not just so that he can share the microphone with you. It's he honestly, genuinely cared, what you thought, and he would say, "Where'd that come?" And you challenge a few ideas here and there, or tell you what you think. But he'd really be in a fucking conversation. He's just a total people person, one of those guys that fucking just everybody flocks to, and it's really sad. It's really sad to know that he's not here with us.
It was actually great to have guys like Sam and then Brock and a few other of our employees here that are people, because I do hate everyone, and I'm the most antisocial bastard on the face of the earth, and so it's
you have that kind of charm too.
Yeah. I'd sit behind the counter, cross my arms, lording over everything.
Yeah.
You're not lording, you're just resting your arms from typing.
Yeah, that's true. Charlie, how about you?
Most of the sentiment is definitely shared, but Sam always blew me away just in terms of the way he carried himself, the way that there's certain people, especially within sort of the comic industry, that you always kind of get the sense they know their stuff. And Sam was always one of those guys. He could look at any book, tell you the grading of it. He could pull... He was one of those trivia guys that you could almost pull any book out of the thing. He could tell you what was going on in the issue, how much the issue is currently worth, what that issue's graded. He knew his shit so much better than I ever have.
He was like a savant with that shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he knew his books, that's for sure.
And, yeah. But he was definitely the nicest guy. I'd always make sure that I could come in here some Thursdays, even when I wasn't working or whatnot, just to chat with him a while, because he and I were kind of always passing each other, never in the store at the same time. So it was always something I tried to make sure I did every once in a while, and it's actually just really sad that that's not going to be possible anymore.
Yeah. We've had a lot of customers we took donations last week for their funeral services and stuff. And between some of the books we sold for them and donations, we got close to $1,000.
Oh, wow.
So, his wife came down and picked them up today, and she was like, she was on the verge of tears. I mean, she was so excited because they were. I mean, this stuff's expensive. Medical is really expensive, and he wasn't working, so they definitely appreciated. If any guys out there went on the site, went on the Facebook site, and did some of the PayPal donations or anything, I don't know. I don't see any of that stuff, so that's all appreciated if you guys did that too. So, well, Sam, these episodes are for you. So, hope whatever's out there, you're hanging out with Death and Morpheus, and
lucky bastard.
Yeah, I know.
Lucky bastard.
Oh, I'm sure if he's there, he's telling us some good stories. So yeah. All right.
Tell Death some stories. Hey man, the other day, and Death would be paying attention to him.
Well, let's move on here. We got a handful of emails. I got an email. It's from May 15th. Okay, it's terrible.
Is this 2011?
No, it's 2012. So it's not that bad. This is from Mike. He asks, I remember coming across a Heroes Reborn trade at Borders. What was the reasoning to put all these heroes into a pocket dimension to remove them from the main Marvel Earth? Didn't it all fail in spectacular fashion?
Not with me.
No, I liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, one of the things that I always remember from the Heroes Reborn stuff is the only time it really failed for me was when they were doing the crossover between the different Heroes Reborn books, because sometimes issue 4 would come out before issue 3.
Yeah.
But
well, let's have a little back history here on
they also
exactly
got Gen 13 and number 13
of what Heroes Reborn was. I'm sure we all remember, if you were especially reading comics at the time, in the early to mid 90s, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, Marvel had a lot of artistic talent. Their writing talent was sort of waning, but they had guys like Eric Larson and Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee and all these really big artists, Mark Silvestri. And what they basically, the artists all kind of said, hey, your books are selling millions of copies. We're not getting any royalties for them. We out. They all left.
Good for them.
They made Image Comics. They made, Spawn and Wildcats and Max and eventually Gen 13 and all this type of stuff, which, a lot of this stuff has kind of gone away or kind of marginalized these days. But at the time, were the biggest selling comics, outside of, X-Men #1, they were some of the biggest selling comics of all time, or, especially that decade. As time went on and the Image books started to kind of fail and meander off and kind of they kind of gave up all their books to other creators, Marvel was in the verge of bankruptcy, or that they weren't in the verge. They were bankrupt. Mm-hmm, they went bankrupt. Mm-hmm. They filed for bankruptcy. All this stuff was falling apart. And Marvel basically came back and said, hey, Image guys, Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, who else?
Will Portio?
Well, yeah, Will Portio did Iron Man.
He did Iron Man. Yeah. And then who did... No, I think that was all. It was 4, right? It was the 3 of them?
Yes, it's 3
on the 4 books.
Yeah, well,
and then various...
the first, 5-6 issues, and then it started,
Yeah.
But Booth took over.
Yeah, but the plan was to get some of the original Image creators back at Marvel to do this sort of 1 year long kind of rebooted Marvel universe, which, to be honest, is not too dissimilar from kind of what DC did with the New 52 books, except this is permanent. This wasn't.
That's what DC says now.
Right. So the reasoning behind this was purely a big stunt. In the comics, it was part of the end of Onslaught.
Oh, yeah the giant Onslaught storyline in X-Men.
Yeah, which was Professor X became this big... I never actually read any of this stuff.
Well, the way they did it is they basically had... When Professor X wiped Magneto's mind, part of Magneto's personality sort of imprinted itself on Xavier and basically created this other personality within him that became Onslaught and then eventually separated itself from Xavier.
Right, so there was this whole big entity walking around who knew everything.
It's all
and
the crazy
future
90s stuff.
Nathaniel Summers kind of formed too, the 2 young powerful kids. It was
well, there was during that event. You had X-Man running around, which was the Cable from Age of Apocalypse, and
Scotty Sun,
all that, and
this actually came out of Age of Apocalypse initially, right? Because isn't that where Professor X mind wiped Magneto?
No, that was
right after
Fatal
right?
Attractions.
But it was it was right after that. Oh no, I'm sorry, you're right. It was before that.
Yeah, it was
that's right, because that was when he took away Magneto's.
Yeah.
Well, this was the event after Age of Apocalypse.
Yes, it was the event after Age of Apocalypse.
Yes.
But at the end of this event, big cataclysmic kind of thing, Franklin Richards basically saved everybody who was going to die by shoving them into this little pocket universe he created, including the Hulk, who at that point, like, he managed to shove the Hulk into the pocket universe, but not Banner. So Banner stayed behind, but the Hulk was shoved into the pocket universe. So there was a lot of little stuff going on in there.
And much like what DC did recently, they rebooted all these books with new number ones. They canceled their biggest titles. They restarted them. And then when they brought them back, it came Heroes Reborn, or Heroes Return, which for me was some of the best comics Marvel had published in the last 30 years. You had Kurt Busiek and George Perez's Avengers. You had Mark Waid and I can't remember the artist on Iron Man and Captain America. Was it Joe Kubert?
I think it was either Andy or Joe.
Yeah.
Well, you also had something really.
No, there's Andy Kubert. It was not Joe Kubert. Andy Kubert.
Yeah, the one with the chin.
Yeah.
You also had something really good coming out of that year long when the heroes were gone with, really good stories with a universe without their main heroes. Like, you got Thunderbolts coming out.
Thunderbolts, one of my favorite titles during that time.
Great title back then. You got other heroes dealing without the main superheroes around. Like, I think Spider-Man was rather interesting during that time, too.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of actually pretty cool stuff came out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the main books themselves were kind of artistically driven, and the stories were pretty unmemorable and pretty terrible, and it felt like Image books. What a surprise! But sales-wise, these things were beasts. I mean, they were such huge sellers. They sold like crazy. To this day, even though we see them from time to time, it's like people still buy them. They still sell.
Well, the trades came and gone. I think I'm still missing probably 2 of them. I'm really mad I didn't get them.
I'm still missing the Avengers.
I think the trades are all out of print. So, and they even had like a little crossover. The last issue, I think it was written by James Robinson, if I'm not mistaken.
They had an issue 13, which is like World War III.
Was World War III, and it crossed over. And I know
had some Wildstorm characters in it.
Yeah, I have to get it because Wildcats is in it for my binding.
Yeah, they brought in all the Wildstorm stuff. So, you can, if you want to track down those used trades, you can find them or something. But yeah, I think it's it's a thing from its time, and it's cool. And
Fantastic
Four had some of the best art during that time.
Yeah. Oh, that was the Jim Lee stuff.
Yeah, and I actually liked the story in the Fantastic Four too. For the most part, some of the stories were better than others. But
here's the thing. I was really into comics before, and then I kind of got out, busy with high school and stuff like that. And Heroes Reborn was kind of like the books that brought me back. It was like a fresh start, kind of like New 52 for probably a lot of people. It was like, hey, it's a fresh start to get people back in, and that's kind of what Heroes Reborn did. And that's when I figured out comic book shops had, subscriber files. It was the first time I was able to do that. I didn't know you could do that and stuff like that. So it introduced me to a lot of new things. So,
even for me, it had been constantly following comics. It was almost a perfect way to get me to go, because at the time I was primarily just picking up the X titles, all the X-Men books and Cable and that kind of stuff. And this was a big X-Men event that led into this Heroes Reborn event that got me picking up the other Marvel titles as well.
Yeah, it was good for them too, because at that point, most of the Marvel books were just plummeting in sales. They'd filed for bankruptcy. They were, the sales were just bottoming out. Those are the highest selling books for Marvel for quite a time around those, especially going back and forward a few years. So, yeah, something that we've seen big events like this happen on a pretty regular basis. So, yeah, it was it's definitely it is a piece of its time, right? You got to look at it.
Fluff art and not a whole lot of substance. But it was fun.
If it did one thing, and it did one thing well, is the Avengers. I cannot overstate the change from Avengers from pre-Heroes Reborn to post-Heroes Reborn. Before that, you had tailed off the brown jacket Avengers. You had teenage Iron Man who had gone back in time and got himself as a young version or some crap. You had the Wasp who actually had turned into a Wasp woman. It was so bad. Avengers was so effing terrible. And then it relaunched as maybe the best run of Avengers in the published history of the book. So, yeah, Avengers is so good. We got a really long email here from Kenzo, one of our constant regulars on the forums. Brock Hader extraordinaire. And And I know he has something here that I want to talk about real quick, but we're not going to answer this question this week, but it's going to be a good thing to get us ready for next week's podcast.
Yeah.
So we're breaking up his email?
Because he asked, I'm gonna read the whole thing here, but we'll talk about the second half. But the first half will be an announcement. And I don't think I've even told you guys about this yet. So he goes, "Hey guys,
announce something to us that you haven't announced yet."
Yeah, I think so.
Oh.
I said, "Hey guys, I just wanted to get some opinions on the New 52. Now that we're basically at the 1 year mark, where would you rank your books now? Here's my unsolicited list." And then he gives us his list. Yes, next week, the first issues of number 0 come out, which means all the issue 12s have come out, which means we're at the 1 year mark. September 2012, September 2011. It's been a fucking year since New 52 has been around.
Charlie's caught up?
Next week.
I'll be caught up? Yeah. And you won't.
Don't look at any of us. Next week are all New 52 1 year podcasts.
Are we breaking it into 2?
No. Hopefully there's no actual news next week.
4-hour-long podcast.
No 4-hour-long podcast or a regular podcast.
Fine, 6-hour-long podcast.
But, like we did with the movie thing a few weeks back, I want guys to do this. He gives us his top 5 list here, which I'll read in a second. We want people's top 5. Yeah.
That will be a good way.
It's simple, it's easy, it's first conversation.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we won't be talking for 2 hours.
Yeah, we'll slightly discuss some of the stuff that's happened, some stuff coming up. But, I'd like our top list and kind of go through that and see what people are still liking and still reading. Sure. His list is a JLI at number 5. He's kind of doing family list here, which is fine. Earth 2 and the World's Finest at number 4. Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps at 3. Batman and Robin at 2. And Red Hood and the Outlaws at 1. So, those books are tying enough.
Says a lot about
fair.
you.
Well,
Kenzo.
Anybody who really cares for my complete opinion on the number 12s, I've actually been reviewing them on the Infinite Long Box as each week's been coming out. So.
Nice. every episode or every issue?
Every one except for ones like every week I skip one book. Like I skipped Firestorm, I skipped Blue Beetle, but I only skipped one book each week. So it's like 48 or whatever.
Yeah, impressive. So we'll get some lists together. People like lists. It's nice. It's easy. No work on our end. Yeah, sure. Do your top 5. You could throw a few honorable mentions.
I'm going to do 10, Toby.
I'm Asian, man. I got to overcompensate.
I'm going to do 48.
But then, I do want to kind of talk about
all that extra credit in school you had to do.
We'll kind of talk about what's happened in the last year, kind of what's coming up forward. Just kind of remembering the books that we lost before their times, and the ones we wish were canceled earlier. Never started actually. So. But he actually continues here. And it's actually a good theory that he's going to talk here and something we've kind of been hearing some rumblings about. He continues. Also, I know the new crossover event for DCU is supposedly be a Pandora/Trinity war. But am I the only person getting a really strong vibe for what will basically amount to be a new Crisis-like event at some point down the road? Between Earth 2, World's Finest, Mr. Terrific, those books all being alternate reality stuff. The Super Obama in Action Comics, ominous hints of the 13 threatening the Omniverse and Red Hood, and a bunch of other cryptic things. I feel like a collision of dimensions is imminent. I think he's right on the money, and I think this has been kind of... They're hinting at... Especially with what we're going to get into in a little bit when we're talking with some of the creator switch-ups that have happened. Yeah. Something big. Like I think DC is going to do a full-on across the universe crossover with every title. Something no company has done in any time of recent years. Infinity War, maybe? Infinity Crusade? Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Crossover.
Huh?
Final crossover.
Final crossover? No?
Never.
What? I don't understand what you mean.
Final
Crisis, Final crossover.
Oh,
I get it.
No, I don't get it.
You're slow. It was a Grant Morrison title, moron.
Okay. Why would this be the final crossover?
I don't know.
All right. Stop making jokes that make no sense.
Well, I'm going to explain that whole cryptic thing at the end of Flashpoint, having to combine the universes for some big cataclysmic event. So,
right. Yeah. Flashpoint had teased some stuff. There's definitely JLA's teased some stuff. I mean, Darkseid's still kind of out there. They haven't done
JL.
You are correct. Justice League. There's been a lot of sort of hints of stuff in the background of numerous books, and I could see them all kind of tying them all together. And I'd love to see some sort of big universe-like crossover.
Definitely, and it's all going to be headed up by the best Chinese writer out in the fucking comics industry, Jeff Johns, because he's just like, for any of you fans of Manhua, or even manga. No, I'll say manhwa more often.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Jeff Johns has that classic trope where you think that this is the big baddie, but then you fucking have all these other badasses like this fucking gang of Shazams that fuck up everybody.
That's one of the things that I've always been floored by him is like
just comes out of nowhere.
I still remember he like built up the Sinestro Corps, and I was already excited for the Sinestro Corps, and then you got to that first issue, and it's like, well, it's not just the Sinestro Corps.
Yeah.
Let's pull out the Anti-Monitor.
I'm like,
let's put out Cyborg Superman. And I remember he did the same thing to me in like War of the Lanterns and Blackest. Like every single event, it's always, oh, this is going to be awesome. And then he pulls out more and more.
He must be a Final Fantasy fan. They love doing that in other games.
Definitely.
He also asks real quick, how do you feel about the new Superman? Him being a super smart and I apparently can't pronounce this word, to the point of social withdrawal versus the old Superman who was just punching everything and didn't really worry about stuff. I don't quite get that in the Superman book, but definitely in action.
Yeah, definitely action.
Definitely in JLA. So, I dig the new Superman. Again, something it'll sort of work itself out over time, I think.
Yeah, it's a sign of the times, right?
Yeah.
It's reflective of the, social, political, type of environment and things that people see as being important. A lot of people are fucking poor as fuck right now. A lot of people don't make that money. Yeah. So, they they take Superman to the streets, relates more, sells more books that way.
Well, I'll say this. Not a big fan of the Superman book and not a big fan of action so far, so
not a fan of action.
They will not be on my top 5.
Oh, action's so good.
Action is really good, but not my top 5 either.
All right, here's a quick one last email from Kevin from Texas. He asks, what story arcs are there in trade do you recommend to get a good bearing on the X-Men? I don't know where to start. I want to get further into the team. I love the X-Men cartoon series from the 90s, and I want to get started into Marvel, and I believe this would be a good way to do it. I've read Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men, but other than that, I have no clue. Interested in the space stuff. Gladiator looks rad as fuck. Gladiator is pretty cool. I think I would hate Superman less if he had a giant mohawk and was purple. And help was appreciated. Thanks in advance. No problem, Kevin. Sorry it took us like a month to answer your question.
Charlie will say there's 2 or more giant-ass hardcovers.
Well, my problem here is I'm looking at it like if you stay away from the omnibuses and look at actual trades in print, I'm like, fuck, that's out of print. Like if the Rise and Fall of the Shi'ar Empire, if you wanted to see the space stuff and X-Men, that would be
that's great.
The perfect one.
Is the trade out of print on that?
I'm not sure.
Do we see it?
We might have a copy.
That's kind of what I'm looking at on the shelf right now, and I can't see that low.
No, I love the Rise and Fall of
You're too tall for it, Charlie!
I love the Rise and Fall of the Shi'ar Empire arc from X-Men, and I may have mentioned this on the podcast before, but the reason I love it so much is because
we have it either way.
Yeah, it's because the X-Men are barely in it.
Brubaker, right?
Yeah.
And that one was really, really good.
Yeah, that was good. I like that a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, we've talked about how much I like
it's still available. It's just a hardcover that's out of print, I think.
Yeah, okay. It's fucking incredible stuff.
What was great about that was Brubaker basically said, hey, I want to do an X-Men book. What random characters can I use and can I go into space with them? So he got like these most bullshit random X-Men characters, and they're like, oh, cool, you get to go fight, Ileandra and Gladiator and go fight the Shi'ar and, the Skrulls and all that. So
that was a great book.
Yeah, that was good. And I liked it because I'm not a big X-Men fan, so it worked because the X-Men were barely in it. But fun stuff. I do highly recommend Wolverine and the X-Men, which is the current stuff.
Yeah.
And this actually gets back to something that, we get questions a lot, and I get this I had a guy come in over the weekend and, I guess it was Friday, and ask me about this, and I tell people this all the time. You can't start at the beginning. No. This doesn't happen. No. It's physically impossible.
Well,
unless you're a millionaire.
There's a beginning before the beginning and the beginning before that beginning.
Right.
And
I would say start in the future with Days of Future Past. Because that's going to become something that a lot of people that are more in the mainstream are going to be talking about probably in the next
with the movie.
Soon.
Yeah. When it comes to the X-Men specifically, oh my God, you literally thousands of comics.
Well, Ryan will say read the Morrison run.
I do love the Morrison run, but
I don't know if that's a good one.
To that
I
wouldn't suggest that to someone who's not read the X-Men before, because it's such a weird take on them. Same with like X-Statix and X-Force. Fantastic book.
Yeah.
Don't recommend it to someone coming in who doesn't know the
Don't
X-Men.
You think with Days of Future Past, you're introduced to these these characters that don't look, they look similar, but you don't know who they are. They're all a little old or whatever. Oh shit, this Kitty Pryde, that chick that's running around. But then it flashes back into the past, and then you see who they are. And there's enough of the characterization because it's an X-Men story with Claremont.
Here's my concern with that. Man, reading those Claremont books are tough. They're not an easy read. If you're new into comics,
okay,
and you try to read that stuff, you're gonna be like, "This is the cheesiest shit." Like, you know what? It's so funny because the stories are so epic in our minds, but physically reading the dialogue is a chore on some of these old books. And it's like we're at the point now where the writing in comic books. You even go back to even the 70s and 80s. Like, man, we were talking about Heroes Reborn earlier. I was reading some old Avengers book, old, quote unquote old, from like the 90s. And I'm like, man, I can't believe... Like, I love this book, but this is really difficult to read. I mean, we are in such a different mindset today, especially with a lot of these books. I think going back to all that stuff, if you like it, totally check it out. But I would not start that old. It's so different.
I'm actually just trying to figure out, because as you say, when you start getting into this, it's just this, but what do you want to read this first?
Honestly,
it's just this, but what do you want to
read
I would
this just
first?
wait until October and check out all the new number 1 issues from the Marvel Now stuff.
If this person is coming from the cartoon, depending on which cartoon, he just read that Jim Lee run, which kind of was at the same time as the cartoon was.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good fun run, especially if you're introduced from the cartoon. It's very parallel. The costumes are same, and
and
Mutant Genesis, is that
it was
is that the arc?
It's
called Mutant Genesis, right? Isn't that? Yeah, that's the Ghibli arc, right?
Yeah, and then it was followed. Yeah, and then it was followed by the Kubert brothers afterwards.
Yeah, that's. Are you talking about the when Logan and Gambit were playing basketball?
Yeah, just
don't use your powers, bitch.
That's like my fucking dream sequence.
Cuts off the fucking.
You throw in Psylocke and I'm jizzing.
There's a lot of particular X-Men trades I would point to. I mean, again, you have like Apocalypse the 12 if you're really into. That was one of the great things about the 90s X-Men show is like, I think about a lot of the stories there. I'm like, well, you could go take a look at the Dark Phoenix saga. You could, because there were, it was one of those sort of like dream series where they adapted the shit out of a lot of the classic X-Men stories. And it makes me very prone to kind of go, well, you should go check out the original stories.
Yeah,
certainly.
Well, let's move on. If you got some X-Men suggestions, you can go on the forums and throw this guy a note. So real quick, let's talk about a few books that were announced, and then we'll talk about some other crap. Over the weekend, a very, very, very big book was announced by DC Comics, and that would be Jeff Johns and David Finch's Justice League of America, which I'm super excited for.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Justice League International was canceled by DC due to just low sales, kind of just being a crappy book. And it's being replaced by this, which is going to be pretty effing crazy. The team lineup, as they show here, is Vibe, and you take on Vibe, which is like, all right, Catwoman.
Of course.
Catwoman's cool.
Meow.
Steve Trevor, who we all remember from Wonder Woman's on-again, off-again boyfriend, except not anymore because she's got a new beau as of this week.
Superman.
We'll talk about that in a second too.
Some Kryptonian.
Martian Manhunter, which is like, hey, cool, Martian Manhunter on a Justice League book, finally. Katana, coming out of Birds of Prey. Green Arrow, who, man, they need to do something about that ongoing Green Arrow book because it's pretty fucking terrible.
That artist is pretty sick, though.
The artist is awesome.
Yeah,
but
Anna
man,
Senti, though, she's kind of all over the place. Yeah.
Not feeling it. Hawkman, soon to be his canceled series. Stargirl, thank God Stargirl's back. I like Stargirl. We haven't seen any of the Justice Society. Maybe she came over
but she
with...
doesn't have a staff.
I just noticed that. You were correct. She doesn't. Huh, interesting.
Not in that picture.
Yeah, not in that picture.
And prop to Alex in Gen Con. He's going to be making all of us a Stargirl in the next few years.
Yeah, for your HeroClix.
Yep.
Nice. And then the new Green Lantern that's coming out of the third army.
Arab
Yeah.
was there revealed.
Well, few things about this announcement. One, so when they announced the cancellation of Justice League International, there were certain sort of hints they were kind of throwing around, especially because they were doing the annual written by Jeff Johns,
which comes out this week. Right, which I'm assuming that leads right into this.
Yeah, so if you're really interested in this book, pick up the JLI annual this week.
I got to reorder more of those annuals. Fuck, I totally forgot.
Well, the other announcement, which is awesome,
What's that?
Jim Lee and Scott Snyder.
Not an announcement.
That's a rumor.
It's a rumor.
So the other
It has to be real.
So the big announcement from last week. Did we talk about this? No, we didn't talk about this. It's only a second. The big announcement from last week, which everyone already knows about, because I think it happened like on Tuesday morning. Superman, Wonder Woman, getting the action on. No pun intended. Their action is sensational.
I don't know. You linked me to a Yahoo post about it early on.
They're being adventurous.
Where they said it was the Justice League was the Avengers for DC, and I actually posted on the comments.
No. You're messing it up. There's actually a great thing on Yahoo that was talking about Superman and Wonder Woman are gonna become a couple in Justice League. For those who don't know, Justice League is like DC's Avengers.
Oh,
and it's like DC's Avengers. No, this was like a decade before Avengers. No. Avengers is Marvel's Justice League. Come on, guys.
Silly Yahoo.
Yeah, but to normal people, that's the easiest way to explain
I know. I'm just saying.
One thing.
I could just see Ryan to the reporter. No. You have to explain it like this.
This is John's little brain trust. This is his idea, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of funny because one of my buddies, Sean, you guys know him.
Yeah.
Tall Taiwanese kid, runs around, plays HeroClix now a lot, like every single day. But he wakes up at like 2:00 in the afternoon because he's up playing HeroClix till like 3:00 in the morning, pissing his girlfriend off. Anyways, so he was telling me this one thing about how Jeff Johns said something like, Superman and Wonder Woman? That's boring. That's like the quarterback and the cheerleader.
Yeah, it's definitely the jock status.
Huh? That's boring. No one wants to see that.
So that's why they turned Superman into a nerd.
Oh, so they had to rewrite Superman into being this socially apt, smart guy.
Well, it was interesting because when it got announced, I'm like, really? It's not the most original thing they could do. And it's kind of funny because growing up, I always go, well, if it's not Lois, it should be Wonder Woman because they visually look good together, yada, yada, yada. But the more I think about it, and it's kind of funny because she did hook up with Batman before.
Yeah.
But
not... See, that's
not in this continuity, yeah. But I was like, if Batman got her, it would be so much cooler. You got the non-powered guy, the smart guy, getting the most powerful woman. Now, that would interest me, right? But then now you got, kind of the jock, the quarterback, and, the cheerleader together. It's kind of like, really?
Well, they've really pushed Clark Kent into a sort of Peter Parker role.
That's actually a great analogy.
Yeah, in Justice League, he's been a little more kind of cocky, but especially in action, and the way they've been playing up is very more reserved. So I'm curious.
Not faking his death and then taking it back with fifth-dimensional creatures.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you for pointing out that bullshit up top.
Oh, it's not bullshit. It's Grant Morrison.
It's Grant Morrison.
Here's my take on it, right? So if Batman hooks up with Wonder Woman and then Wonder Woman dumps him for Superman, that's when Selina Kyle comes in and goes, meow.
Well, we got Talia still around, and she's in from Batman Incorporated. But yeah, no, him and Talia have already,
they already got Damien going on.
They already got it on, so
they could do another Damien.
It's Redbird.
To me, this is
it's fun.
People that don't know comics and people that know comics that don't read them are like, "Boo, what about Lois Lane?" It's like, well, they're not together. Like they've never at any point been a couple. There's like he's kind of pining for her a little bit, but they've kind of written that off, and I'm actually okay with that.
I think it's funny that the people that are like, oh my god, what happened to Lois Lane? It's like you live in a society where like divorce rates are so freaking high, and you're like, Lois Lane is no longer in the picture.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, they've never been together, and
they wiped out that relationship from continuity.
Yeah,
thank God that story arc wasn't called One More Day.
Yeah, it's One More Day for Superman. But no, I mean, I'm actually totally fine with it. Just
Dr. Superman to you, buddy.
Dr. Superman. I'm actually totally fine with it because Lois is predictable. Lois is what we've had for 70 years. I mean, Wonder Woman's predictable too, I guess, but they've never actually done it. Oh, there's been what-if stories, and there's been, future stuff in Kingdom Come and blah, blah, blah. But actually, if they're going to full-on do this, totally awesome. And, I've seen a lot of people complaining about Wonder Woman it not jiving up with Brian Azzarella's Wonder Woman. And honestly, I don't give a fuck. Like, not all the DC books are kind of playing
just off like every female listener we had.
No, what? No, I'm saying I don't think the continuity matters. Let his Wonder Woman do his own thing.
Yeah.
If he wants to have Superman involved, cool. If not, whatever. Like,
yeah.
I think what you're bringing up is the fact that like Wonder Woman, there's Azraella's Wonder Woman, and then there's
Wait, Azzarello and Cliff Chang's Wonder Woman.
Sure.
Get it right.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes,
Cliff Chang is a big fucking piece of that
Chang.
shit. Yes, exactly.
But in Justice League, Wonder Woman has gone from being this kill this thing to this high and mighty kind of smart woman to, I mean, she keeps going up and down with who she is as a character.
Well, she hasn't gone up and down. Time has progressed, and she's changed as a character.
Yeah, but it doesn't flow very well reading it in the context of what people are reading. If they're just reading Justice League, all they're seeing is, okay, she's this way and then this way, but we don't even see how she got there.
So right, because 5 years passed. She's just a different person. She was like 18 and just off Paradise Island for the first team.
But that's the thing.
For the first time.
We as readers understand that, but you're talking about you're talking about Superman and Wonder Woman and the general populace seeing this news and going, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? So if they come in reading it,
they don't
read
the books.
Huh?
What about this? What about this? What about this? It's Jim Lee art with two people making out.
Yeah, that's all you need to know, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you
get Playboy,
and if you really want to see some good shit, go check out J.H. Williams' Batwoman number 12, and then you can see Wonder Woman and Batwoman 5 years before, which I was actually a lot more excited about than that whole Superman and Woman.
It's funny you bring that up.
Right.
I actually liked that Wonder Woman.
Yes,
because she was savage when she was going in the battle with the monsters, and then coming out of it, she had that wind down, that kind of I need this time, and like there you saw the dynamic. But in Justice League, you don't see that. You either see dumb Wonder Woman, or you see
on point characterization and connection with the story. Having Bloody Mary. You didn't like Bloody Mary and the werewolf? That was incredible!
I like Batwoman. I like everything about the Batwoman story in that story. But the whole point of showing this Wonder Woman battle that had nothing to do with the story other than the fact they were going to be working in Wonder Woman at the end of the issue seemed kind of pointless to me. It was like, let's just keep flashing back to Wonder Woman swinging.
For me, I felt it was kind of like, and I'm just going to say this really quick. It was a connection back to the title, Finest, a playoff World's Finest, a playoff Superman, Batman, and they were doing that whole I'm Superman. No, I'm Wonder Woman. I'm Batwoman. That kind of thing.
Yeah, but normally when they're doing something like that, the story going on both sides actually interconnect in some ways. Where the only way they interconnected was at the end when Batwoman shows up and be like, "Hey, Wonder Woman."
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hey, Charlie. Wonder Woman 12 came out last week. Speaking of Wonder Woman,
not last week.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, where Charlie called you in the middle of the night and chatted at me first thing in the morning, like right as I turn on the computer. Toby, have you read?
We had a few people ask if we were going to talk about this last week, and I said, no, I must wait till Charlie comes back.
Handle it, Charlie.
So while we're talking Wonder Woman, let's just real quick here recap Wonder Woman 12. Something really kind of major, and I don't think people realize how major this is, happened at the very end of the issue. Now, they could go nowhere with this, or this could just be something for Wonder Woman, but I don't think so. This is pretty significant.
Yeah.
And why don't you give us the details?
So going into the Wonder Woman story, they've had the whole protecting what's her name's baby. Of course, my mind's blanking on her name.
But
it's not important.
Her
little blonde chick.
Her Gabrielle.
Yeah. Protecting.
Yeah, she's Gabrielle.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what else to call her.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
So, other than her real name. Zora?
That sounds right.
What the heck's her
Short-haired
name?
blonde chick with a bulge.
Okay.
Why?
Gabrielle is better.
You're all killing me. I can't remember her name. Oh, my God.
But
Terrible.
any event, so she's been protecting her baby from the gods, starting with Hera, and then it kind of evolved into Hades and all this other stuff. And there's this sort of prophecy they've been kind of leading in there. And at the very end of the issue, they're kind of talking about what all this meant in terms of the old gods, and then it leads into what this means for the new gods. And then you see basically somebody emerge from what looked like some sort of ruins. I wasn't sure if that was...
Yeah. It looked like kind of... that wasn't supposed to be like right then, was it? Like, I didn't quite know how to take that.
I couldn't really... Since I read that issue, I went back and I read the first trade paperback, and now I want to read all the way back up so I can kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But basically, this figure emerges, picks up what is distinctly Orion's helmet, puts it on, calls forth a boom tube, and walks through it, which anybody who is as big a fan of the Fourth World stuff as I am immediately kind of go, holy shit, it's the New Gods.
Right. So, New Gods, Orion, real quick summary for those people that don't know who these are. Very famous characters created by Jack Kirby back in the 70s called the New Gods.
Yeah.
There's a whole host of them. Darkseid, everyone knows, is kind of the bad guy.
Uh-huh.
Orion, being the son of Darkseid, was given to the High Father, who's kind of like the good. It was like good Darkseid. They switched sons.
So
as like a peace treaty.
The whole idea behind these two sort of separate worlds is you have the world that is just pure darkness with Darkseid and everybody on...
That's Apocalypse.
Right. And then you have New Genesis, which is the more benevolent god. So it very much ties into the whole idea of mythology and Greek gods and all that kind of stuff. And nowhere in my mind did I ever connect... Well, they're working with all these old gods in Wonder Woman. This could have something to do with new gods.
Now, the only new gods we've seen in DC, we've seen Darkseid.
Yeah.
We haven't seen anyone else, have we?
No. This was, as far as I know, this was the first of the light side we've seen.
All right. Now, even though Orion is the son of Darkseid, his other High Father's Darkseid, High Father's son that was given to Darkseid was Mr. Miracle, right?
No, it was
I'm sorry. Huh?
It wasn't Calipac?
No, it's Mr. Miracle. It's Scott Free. He was given to Darkseid.
That's right.
And then Orion was given to but even though they're doing that, Orion stays good, and Mr. Miracle goes back and becomes good. Like both of them kind of rebel against Darkseid.
Yeah.
In the comics, Grant Morrison had a huge story. It was kind of the end of the New Gods and the rebirth of the New Gods on Earth, Final Crisis, that sort of didn't get to follow up. And I really wonder if this is kind of taking Grant Morrison's Final Crisis and sort of working that story into these books, having the New Gods born on Earth, which is exactly what happened during Final Crisis, kind of taking their essences and putting them into human form. So that the fifth world, because these are considered the fourth world, the fifth world was humanity. That the humans are the leader of the universe and all of creation from that point forward. That was sort of the end of Final Crisis. And I'm really curious if they're going to kind of still use that, because they never finished that story.
I'm not sure they're going to, and this is one of the things that I kind of... So this whole prophecy seems to be around... One, Zeus has vanished to the point where when they were trying to figure it out, they were pretty much told he doesn't exist. Not that he's dead, but he doesn't exist yet.
Well, if the new gods are replacing the old gods, then it could just
That's kind of what I'm thinking is...
And that's what happened with the new gods. Kirby's new gods replaced the old gods.
Which is where I think they're going with sort of the fall of the... Well, right now, Greek gods, but I wouldn't be surprised if they expand that out a little bit more.
Can you imagine if Wonder Woman's pantheon was the new gods? Oh, that'd be so awesome.
So, I'm very excited for everything and anything this could mean. I mean, I was already enjoying the Wonder Woman book. The Wonder Woman book is bloody fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Agreed.
And
it'll be on 4 of the top 5 lists for Comic Conspiracy, I think.
Guaranteed.
I think 5.
I got to that last page.
Not Brock.
Wow.
I didn't get past the first issue.
I got to that.
You also didn't get past the first 10 minutes on Hardboiled, so what's the surprise here, right?
That's the first 10 minutes of Hardboiled.
Fucking Ginger.
Fucking A.
But it just, when I got to that last page of issue 12, I just, I immediately just, picked up my phone and texted Ryan, did you see the end of...
Yeah.
His reaction was the same as mine, holy shit.
Yeah. I was like, flip. Is that Orion?
Yeah.
What? Good stuff. Good stuff. And I really hope this actually leads to something big. I actually did have a couple customers asking about the Jack Kirby's Fourth World stuff, and if they should read it. Again, kind of like the X-Men stuff we're talking about. It's very much a thing of its time, but it's pretty crazy. So
it's crazy, but it's awesome.
Yeah, the art's really good. Real quick, there's a rumor that was going around today, as we're continuing with DC stuff here, that Scott Snyder and Jim Lee may be launching a new Superman book called Man of Steel to come out when the Man of Steel movie comes out. I have nothing else to say other than that'd be awesome, because you're taking the two biggest people at DC right now and having them do a book together. which woohoo. Okay, real quick.
Okay, so now I'm just going to get into an argument. Jeff Johns is still the biggest.
I'm not saying he's not, but Scott Snyder.
Ebbs and flows.
Yeah, of course. But Scott Snyder is ruling DC right now. There's no question. I mean, he's number one. There's no one else.
Yeah, we talked about it. He's the first advertisement that came out for fucking before Comic-Con. He was like the face of DC.
Yeah, I mean, in Johns, I mean, they've given him work with, outside. I know he is really heavily involved with that Robot Chicken special that's coming out that looks so good.
Yes, it does.
I haven't watched. I didn't watch a trailer. I didn't watch anything. I'm just going to watch it straight up.
I really want that Aquaman cover.
We'll be getting a few, not too many.
We'll see who gets it.
Yeah, do a raffle for it.
Not me.
But the big news this past week, I mean, other than the Superman and Wonder Woman thing, this is more on the creative side. Many creators, both in Marvel and DC, are leaving. Leaving Marvel and DC. And kind of varied how and why
and does not appear to be moving like from DC to Marvel or Marvel to DC.
No,
which
they're
is
just
what
like
we
going
normally
away.
see.
Yeah,
it's more moving either to work on television or indie books or like their
create their own stuff.
So
Brubaker.
This had been going on this had been kind of talked about for a while that people were unhappy with the way Marvel and DC were running their companies. But I think it's one of those things where you are working for a major company. These characters are not yours. You're being told, hey, working on this title, things to change. You have editors and all this stuff. I mean, Rob Liefeld had a big Twitter blow up, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But someone basically told him,
just
like, I saw someone's reply. They're like, dude, if you can't handle the fire, then get the fuck out of the kitchen. Like, what this job is going for. Like, you don't own these characters. You're hired to work on this book, and they fire you, or you can leave. And so it's interesting. A lot of this started when Grant Morrison kind of left DC. I mean, he's still involved. He's still doing Multiversity. He's still doing that Wonder Woman book. But he's taking a break from superhero comics, which is totally cool. I mean, people do this all the time. Usually they come back. He's doing Happy for Image and a few other titles. We've had 3 people announced leaving. 3 fairly big names. Judd Winnick, very quietly,
disappeared.
Left Batwing, and they basically just they solicited his name on the issues, but he may not even be writing it. And it sounds like he's going to be doing some TV work. He's doing some other stuff he can't talk about. Probably not comic stuff. And he just super quietly talked about it. And he's like, "Oh, I'm doing other stuff. I just don't have time to write a monthly comic anymore."
All he basically did was confirmed, I'm not writing that issue anymore.
Yeah. So it's...
I hope he's back. He's one of my favorite writers. Fucking Catwoman.
I still think there's more to that story than what he made it out to be. He just makes sure that he doesn't burn any bridges, I think.
Well,
he's a pro.
Yeah, and with all these guys...
He did it the right way, basically.
Yeah. When you're, you have Gail Simone and you have, Scott Snyder and all these guys, and Jeff Johns, obviously, work for DC, who are like, well, this is what, they're friends. And they're like, you guys know the score going in. I mean, stuff like, editorial changes and art changes, and we're trying to line all these books up. This isn't a shock. This. You are working with a company. Okay, now if you have some editor being a total dick and micromanaging everything and changing stuff for no reason, that's one thing. But trying to make everything line up to me seems pretty reasonable. Ed Brubaker left Marvel, which had been a rumor for a while. His run on Captain America and Winter Soldier was winding up. He wasn't on any of the new books coming out.
Well, here's the thing I heard, though. He's been working for 4 months to wrap up Winter Soldier, and because they said they wanted to close that series.
Right.
And then Marvel went back on, no, now that they announced the Winter Soldier movie, that they wanted to continue on, and he wasn't quite happy about this. But again, he goes,
that was like his baby, man. He fucking brought that shit in.
But even he was like, well, that's what Marvel wants to do. That's what they want to do. And he quietly walked off. So, you can't be happy about, working 4 months on an ending and have some other writers come in and take over.
Yeah, but he can end his story, you know. I mean, you can go on. I mean, he's going to be working, this is TV work, quote unquote, which a lot of these guys, what's his face from Saga, Brian K. Vaughan.
Yeah.
I mean, he did some stuff and then he left for a few years and he comes back and does a comic and then leaves for a few years. And, this is standard practice for most of these guys.
Yeah.
Brubaker has obviously got enough cachet in the comic industry. He can probably come back at any point. Same with Judd Winnick. Same with Grant Morrison as well. Criminal, they're still trying to make a movie of. Hopefully he's going to be more involved with that, trying to work that out. So, Ed Brubaker, and I know I've said this a few times, I mean, one of the last things I'm reading is just consistently is everything he does for Marvel. He's like the last saving grace for me. I mean, I love him, and I hate to see him go, and that really sucks because he was the last thing I really, really liked at Marvel. So, we'll see. Be curious to see what happens. But then there's good old Rob Liefeld. What a guy. What a
He's
buddy.
awesome.
Is this the biggest Twitter public flameout we've seen from a creator in recent memory?
It looks like it.
Well, probably biggest name, and like how far he went into explaining himself and whatnot, right?
Yeah. Now, I mean, I got to give the guy props. If you're this pissed off and you're like, I'm out, like, you might as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you might as well go out with a bang. Because if you're not coming back...
I do. I got to give the guy a lot of props. I mean, he's got some major balls just to do that. That's actually kind of cool of him.
Well, what's so funny, too, is, Mark Waid bitches it about every person he works with after he leaves their books, and then he's still back at Marvel and DC, like, all the time, right? I mean, so, but saying this, you could turn around and 2 editors later, they're like, well, that wasn't me, so I don't give a fuck. You want to work on my book again, Rob? Yeah. But, Rob Liefeld took to Twitter and just exploded all over DC. He's supposed to be on like G4 or something tonight or tomorrow night.
Oh no!
Have an expose and shit.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. He's gonna go on WWE just to take his anger out, man.
Yeah, right?
Whoa, screw DC.
Maybe
have the other wrestlers dress up as Batman.
But screw you. But he talks
I am the Hawkman.
All the stuff he's saying is, we have editors coming in and micromanaging my shit at the last minute and changes constantly. Oh, and George Perez. This was
George Perez had the same kind of he didn't blow up as much, but he said that the editorial at DC was very very hard to work under the time constraints that they put you under, and the changes that they make at like and both of them both of them were on spot on saying they were told one thing and then like they do it and then they turn around and say no, and it's like the top doesn't know what they want, so they keep throwing these things out and trying to make it stick when they're trying to connect.
Let's just put some. I was
just going to say the thing that I do not agree with the way he flamed out on this. I mean, obviously he's getting into.
It was rather entertaining, though, for sure.
He's getting into feuds with people he shouldn't be getting into feuds with over this. But to me, I can understand a certain level of frustration if you're told, okay, we need you to set up your books for this big crossover we're doing. You work out the script, and then they scrap the crossover. Sure. So I understand that, especially with the time constraints and everything, that if you try to play ball and playing ball keeps screwing you over, I could see going, yeah, I'm done.
Can you imagine working at like Pixar or something like that? And they're like, yeah, Toy Story 4, we're going to kind of change direction. We've been working on this for a few months, but we're going to kind of move. You'd be like, no, how dare you? No, my vision. It's like, fuck, dude, you work for this major corporation.
It's really funny that you should bring that up. I went to the Pixar exhibit when they had it in Oakland, the museum. And my favorite piece there was a guy doing storyboards. It's literally about a guy working till no end for storyboards going, this is it. This is the final thing, right? And he brings it over to the meeting where, like, Joan Lasseter and stuff like that. They all look at it. And then John goes, it's all no words, but you can totally tell what's going on. John goes like, I have an idea. And the whole room just goes berserk to ideas like, no, but this or that. The next picture is him back at the drawing board, page 1.
Like, welcome to the fucking, artistic paying industry,
This is one of those things that I just don't have a clear enough understanding within the comic industry. I've always kind of got the impression, especially when it comes to this kind of work, that it's not like, for me, I've had plenty of times I've coded something or done something, shown it to my boss. He said, no, I want to redo this and yes, I get a little frustrated with all my wasted time, but the bottom line is I get paid the same either way if I end up having to redo it or not.
Omar looks like he's going to jump out of his skin here, but let me say one thing real quick, and then it's all you, Omar. I totally forgot what I was going to say. I think what happens is that I have no idea what I was going to say. Let's just
put this in perspective really quick. We don't know the real story. We're just talking about news.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Liefeld's an incredible guy. I met him. I talked to him on quite a few occasions. He's super cool. He's a fan. He's nostalgia for my growing up with the kinetic style that he was a big part of in the 90s. But let's just be real here. Just like going back and watching Black Hole and watching Last Starfighter, they're nostalgic movies. They're not fucking epic. We're talking about Hawkman. We're talking about Deathstroke. We're talking about Savage.
Deathstroke's like it's his dream to work on
Grifter.
Deathstroke.
Yeah, okay.
And stuff.
What's the third one?
Grifter.
Okay, these are 3 books that he's doing the art for and writing, scripting,
he was doing
plotting.
the art in Deathstroke.
Art and writing,
and then writing in Hawkman and Grifter.
Raise your hands. Who thinks he was set to fail? Who thinks he was set to fail? Name what projects he was doing beforehand, and the amount of workflow that you have to come on. He's like, let me give you fucking 3 books.
Because
they're not big books. Okay, they're not big books. Like George Perez Superman, that's huge, right? Just the name Superman, though we know that no one was buying Superman. Action Comics is different. But this isn't Batman. This isn't Green Lantern. This isn't Wonder Woman. This is Hawkman, Grifter, and Deathstroke. I love Deathstroke. And a lot of characters do like these, these B, C list characters. But what,
They were already the lower selling books already.
I guess the point I was trying to make in terms of my job is very much like, it doesn't really matter. If I have to redo work, I still get paid my hourly rate. It doesn't really, well, not hourly, but basically I'm not repeating my work and not getting paid for it or not getting paid well for it. And I've always gotten the impression that a lot of money that comes in from comics has to do with trade sales and issue sales. And I remember when Perez was talking about the editorial stuff, he was talking about how he did this cover exactly as he was told to do it with the exact costume. And then they redesigned the costume, and then he was looking at his cover and going, well, I was counting on reselling this for this amount of money.
The World's Finest.
And
that sucks.
Yeah, and that's sort of the difference for me in terms of this, is I don't get the impression that they get paid very well for, saying, doing this. They are counting on that work getting published, getting out there to bring in money. So having to redo a script and redo a script and redo a script actually matters, because you're redoing work, waiting for that one check from it, basically.
And he's also taking he's also taking characters that are, like you said, like C-list characters, and trying to rejigger them in this universe so that they're interesting to people. So he's getting behind these characters.
Well, also, I read, and I think either in the Twitter feeds or somewhere in the interviews, that he been throwing a lot of loopholes, like Voodoo ain't sending, so you have to include her in the Grifter book, stuff like that. Yeah. It could get very frustrating. I mean, I could see where it's coming from, and the fans aren't helping him either. Let's be honest here.
Hold on real quick, Charlie. For years, right, this is what's gone back and forth. I remembered what I was going to say. You have years where, like, it's free reign. Creators are doing whatever the hell they wanted on these books. There was no continuity. No one cared, right? Yeah. And then you have guys like Jim Shooter, and you have guys like, obviously now at DC Marvel, so very strict, almost editorial written and driven titles where they are very much involved in the day-to-day operation of the story because they have a narrative they want to tell over the whole universe. Mm-hmm. It goes both ways. And I'll tell you what, and I know creative people are going to be like, that's not true. Dude, the sales on the books are the best when the editors are very heavily involved. And I guarantee you, if you go back and look, when it was free times to do whatever you want at Marvel, I guarantee you that's when they were going. That's when they were going. That time you
got the good creators doing some really, really good stuff.
Well, you do. But I think when you have a single driving force, whether it's an editorial head or whether it's one creator on one book is fine. You could definitely get some anomalies, but like you could tell the last few years at DC felt like weirdly freeform, and there was no drive to the books, and they were just kind of like just every issue. And Marvel's, I get a little bit.
You think for DC that's the case?
No, not this year. Prior to the New 52,
with Martz and Braganza, they were killing it with Batman and Green Lantern, though.
On those books,
but that's
not. You read like JLA and Justice Society, and Titans, and a few.
And Braganza was on that too. Yeah.
Now Titans at the very end got really good, but if some of these books, I'm just like, they're just meandering.
Yeah.
It's like,
I guess.
Well, it seems like. Yeah, sorry, Charlie.
I was just going to say, I have no problem with a complete vision, and I have no problem with saying we're going to do this crossover. I sympathize with the frustration of being told, okay, we're going to do this big crossover. You do the script, and then they it
sucks.
I really, really, really do not like it may just be crazy memory fogginess or whatnot, but I talked about this a little bit when it came to the Batman Hush story. You had a very concise... Hush was great. Everybody loved that book. Mm-hmm. And it felt really weird how quickly they brought the character back, because for me, I remember when Magneto would be gone for years. And then it would be this really big deal when Magneto came back and they could really build it up properly. And same with being an X-Men fan growing up, same with Apocalypse. I mean, you had these really substantial characters that were allowed to be shelved. And I haven't really seen that in comics in a long time, just because it seemed like, oh crap, this guy's really popular right now. We need to bring back Hush right away. Oh, this is really popular right now.
I actually really liked Return of Hush, even though it got broken up by, I think, a crossover and the story just went nowhere. It was really cool at first.
I'm not saying the story was bad. I actually, like you, I actually really like that story. But it's just something I've been kind of noticing in terms of a lot of these, what I could say, editorial decisions. Let's actually use the Court of Owls for an example. So Court of Owls, great story. Love everything in the Batman book with the Court of Owls, and I had no problem with the crossover except for Nightwing. Just because the Nightwing book started with issue 1 and started on a particular story arc, and I didn't even realize this until recently, and then veered off in this way to sort of tie in with the Court of Owls, with the circus and everything. Yeah. And, well, more with the court since they built it up over that. But it was just in issue 12. They finally got back to that initial story they started in issue 1.
Because they just tried to tie it up together, right? Because it was forced. It wasn't. Again, that was forced by editors,
and
right?
If they had decided this is the direction we're going to take Nightwing on issue 1 as a reader, start it sort of fresh without breaking up that story to make way for that Night of Owls crossover and the Court of Owls crossover. As a reader, I would be a bigger fan of the Nightwing book because it wouldn't have been so jarring and kind of getting to issue 12, finally going back to issue 1. And that's where I think they need to be a little better organized for their creators and for their readers, because if you decide we're going to do this Superman crossover, and they even had some stuff hinting towards that crossover, and then you shelve it,
the Hellspawn stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think
I kind of want him to do the Marvel Cinematic Universe way.
Yeah, sort of make firm decisions and follow through with them rather than a lot of false starts, and that because that leads to some crappy titles because they're constantly being influenced.
Titles getting having crossovers kind of run through them, and then back to our main story. I mean, that happens. Yeah, every book.
It's one of those things where you said it. The good books had a firm editorial standpoint, but that firm editorial standpoint was they knew what was going on. They knew what, in essence, the end game was. Whereas I don't think DC as a whole knows what their end game is right now.
See, Brocco is just mad because it's going to make for some really, really hard binding decisions when it comes down to the line.
Here's the thing, though. DC absolutely does know what's going on. They have a clear plan they're working towards. I mean, this has been hinted at, especially in the last couple of days. However, you have your Batman books, your Green Lantern books, you have Justice League and a handful of books that have a very clear thing. When you have a series like, let's say, Deathstroke, or you have Teen Titans, and you're like, well, how can we make these books work? Let's try this. Oh, this isn't working. Okay, the calling didn't work. Let's move on to a new story. Let's kind of move stuff around. A Superman crossover coming up. Sure. What's it? The
Hellspawn.
HEL. It's so bad, but so funny. But what's it called? I'm totally blanking on it. It's like the Superman crossover between the Superman books. It's It's a new Kryptonian coming to Earth called Hell. H''EL.
Oh God!
So
all of these new characters and new big characters are just so anticlimactic. They just need to stop doing that shit.
But that's sort of the point of New 52. Is they're we don't want to use the Joker and Riddler and Lex Luthor in every story.
We'll not do so fucking corny and cheesy.
But see, I was talking about this recently on my other podcast on Superman. It's part of the reason I don't care about that title is, yes, you can bring in new bad guys, but there's nothing to them.
Yeah.
Wait, Hellspawn, is he the one that blew
Yeah, it's from Wildcats.
That's from Wildcats. Yeah.
Yeah, and the stuff with him I actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
But my problem is that was like one issue,
Sure.
and I think it was even the annual.
Yeah,
Was it?
I think so.
But like the first bad guy basically seemed to be a weird energy being.
Yeah, it was awful.
And then like this.
Well,
most recent story,
what they did with Superman when they started it was they're like, well, you can't talk about Lois, you can't talk about the Daily Planet, you can't talk about this, so just make up some crappy villain and have them fight him for 3 issues.
And
it's
that's the thing. That's not a clear, concise editorial thing. So that's why the book's that's why the book floundered and failed. You didn't tie.
Superman's really successful. It's like selling 3 times it was selling before. It hasn't failed.
Yeah, but it's
just
not.
creative team.
Well, it failed for me as a reader.
Sure.
How about that?
But
And that's the most important
If you're
thing.
reading action and you're reading that book, there's no real. They don't blend well together.
But see, and here's the thing.
Well, that's a good thing because back in the day, I didn't want to read. You don't 3 titles just to follow the story,
Right.
But that's the thing is you don't need. I don't need 3 titles to follow the story. But we're coming off of Grant Morrison's Batman run, which has brought us to Scott Snyder's run, and we still
There's no
see
connection between their 2 runs.
Really? Batman Incorporated didn't carry over. Batwoman didn't carry over from the old universe.
Those aren't.
Damian didn't carry over. Talia and Bruce having sex didn't carry over.
None of that's in Batman.
That's from even before the last universe.
And none of that's in Batman.
But that's
like the last universe,
You read
man.
the Batman title, and the Batman title deals with Batman.
None of
while
those
you deal with the other titles tie in together.
None
like
of those
Batman
events
and
are
Robin.
in Batman.
I know they're not in Batman, but
Really
they
quick,
tie a lot
can I
better
just
than
can I
actually Superman.
Yeah.
make a disjointed call to arms to all of our comics conspirators out there?
Sure.
Because right now we're at this point where it's just kind of a lot of rambling.
Thanks.
Ethan Van Syver. Ethan Van Syver, one of my good buddies on Facebook. He should be yours too. Everyone needs to go to their comic book store Tuesday, Tuesday afternoon, and say, "Hey Ryan, let me just take a look in front of you. You can flip through Green Lantern Annual #1. Flip through the book for me, please. Just flip through, and I want to find a page that I want to buy because Ethan Van Syver says you pick the page, send me a PM." And you will have it. First come, first serve.
Wow.
Let's sell this fucking original art out, son. So let's celebrate the living. Ethan Van Syver has a job with DC. Fuck Rob Liefeld. Let's do this shit. Boom.
Okay, I still want my fucking Green Lantern Annual digital combo pack that they didn't solicit.
Charlie, you need to get a Hawk and Dove commission from Rob.
Calls are coming out in this podcast.
Charlie's going to be here like 8 in the morning tomorrow. Going to be like, "Where's the annual? Where's the annual?"
No, but I mean, overall, though, I hate it or love it. We're talking about the New 52 now as a whole universe. Before this, we're talking about the Green Lantern books being so good.
Right.
We didn't talk about anything else.
Yeah.
We talked
I still talk about the Green Lantern books being so good.
Yeah, no,
They
you know
are.
what my point is, though. They did what they needed to do was, instead of just talking about the Green Lantern books or just talking about Batman books, we're talking about the New 52, which includes all of them, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's the whole purpose of
No,
this.
and I totally agree with you on that. And not only that, we're talking about Superman and Wonder Woman kissing, eventually having Jonathan Kent, who becomes Phantom Stranger.
So what?
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see about that. Real quick, just to get back to something we were talking about earlier in the episode, which kind of goes back to this. We were talking about Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman in Justice League not having to really match up. You don't have to have Superman and Wonder Woman having sex in Action Comics. You don't have to have Wonder Woman even mention Superman and Wonder Woman. It's these books stand kind of on their own, and I kind of like that there is a continuity, but the books all feel like they're just kind of their own book. And you get a little crossover here and there, but they don't really... I like that, because we haven't had that, especially... Like with Marvel. I mean, Marvel stuff right now is so interconnected.
Totally. And this is the thing, too, Charlie mentioned. I'm a reader, and I thought it sucked, or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever, I don't want to paraphrase exactly how you said it. But you know what? Red Sun, totally out in the left field, but it's always going to hold a special place in my heart, and it's nothing with continuity, though they tried to bring it in on, what is it, 52, going backwards shit, whatever they did.
Countdown.
Yeah, countdown. But anyways, agreed.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think people say they want continuity, they want all this stuff, but then they complain about it when their books all cross over and when they all tie in and when the universes are all connected. Because you can pick up any New 52 title and just read it straight out, and you're not. I mean, there are tie-ins and there are crossovers, and there's actually more than I thought there were going to be, but they're not like you have to know the whole universe.
It's not
to get
detrimental
this book.
to the story,
Right.
but I mean, Rob Liefeld, I think, was coming off of, like what Charlie said, is that you work to bring these characters to the forefront, to bring them into this continuity, or just to bring them up to whatever, and then the editorial staff's like, nope, scrap it. We got to tie it in with this.
Welcome to having a job. All right, we got to wrap.
That's the thing we don't know. Are they getting paid for those scripts?
Of course they're getting paid. Yeah, if you're turning stuff in, even if it gets rejected, you're getting paid. I mean, they pay you for your artwork. They shelve it. They do stuff with it. So you might not be getting as much, but they compensate you. Yeah, if you do work and they don't run it, you still get paid. It may not be as much as a printed. I know this from Ryan Scott and the guys from the Geekbox. Yeah. I mean, when they work in, if they do a review and it gets pulled for whatever reason, they get compensated. Yeah. So, but we got to wrap up here. Charlie, you said you have something real quick. You started to talk and then I cut you off.
Lost his train of thought.
I lose all my train.
Damn you, Ryan.
Well, since this is the last podcast ever recorded, we're never going to be able to talk about anything ever again. No, I'm just kidding. We'll be back next week to talk, and we can continue this conversation forever because creators come and go all the time, guys. We lost a few good ones.
Yeah.
So there will be more. This episode and every other episode of the podcast can be downloaded at geekbox.net, as well as on the comicsconspiracy.biz. You can go visit us on all our various sites that we do, like forums at geekbox.net, where you can talk to us in the comic forums. Conspiratorbrock.com, where Brock will yell at us about having terrible opinions about stuff on his blog.
No, I don't really yell at you about that.
Oh, okay.
I just post.
You just do it in the store.
Yeah, just in the store. I just post the random shit you say on Tuesdays.
You can go to Comics and Da Kine. I have to pronounce that out because people don't know how to spell it.
Post in a while?
Hey, you look at my Instagram, look at my Twitter, look at my shit. I just keep getting more and more followers.
Nice.
Because it's all about HeroClix comics and bitches.
And don't forget the Infinite Long Box, which is Charlie's other podcast. Where he cheats on us and actually talks about comic books and not just about comic books.
Yeah. Don't forget our parent podcast.
Oh, of course. The Geekbox, the Comedy Button, and Good Job Brain. You can listen to all those on geekbox.net.
At Toby XI.
And yeah, all of us on the Twitters. Ryan Higgins, Ryan. Brock Sager. Comics and Da Kine. That's Omar. Toby XI is Toby. Insanity and Chaos is Charlie. I think that's it. Do we have anything else? No.
Do we?
No. Next week. All new 52. It should they should stop calling it new 52. We're maybe they will with the zero issues.
It's going to be the old 52.
No, just call it the 52.
It's going to have a new 52.
No,
then the new 52 is going to be the old 52. Then we can have the new 52.
Gods come in, and then when the new gods finally come in, then it'll be the old 52.
All right, we'll be back next week. Thanks for listening, everyone.